or, and I know they can find them on the internet certainly, but
yes,
I think if you do that additional step of getting them to the community organizations, that'll be a real help. And do you think that they'll be sent in advance of October the 1st?
I hope so.
Okay. Because otherwise, then the folks up north, maybe they're relying on their community organization and they don't get them for a week, and meantime, folks are already standing in line. So, but if you'd send that message, I will. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Cherokee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask that they absolutely be posted online, the application, and that there is a log reported to us monthly of who calls in and if they're denied their application, because we continue in our area to have folks that say that they're turned away because of money from your programs or from Mr. Soap's programs. And while it looks like all these other counties continue to be covered, but yet somehow ours are denied money. So I would like it tracked for both youth and adult and make sure both applications are available online.
We have started doing that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Baker.
Yes. Under the report, under the CADA,
Yes,
it has 11 at-large communities and 32 community organizations for the Cultural Summit.
Yes.
There were actually 21 at-large communities.
21 at-large? Okay.
So they were 21 out of the 24, so they were well represented. Thank you.
Chuck, and then Ms. Fisher-Hall.
And just to follow up on the community or the youth grant, the adult grant, could we get a copy of the, and it's probably going to be on the application of the requirements, because last year there was actually a tremendous amount of confusion to the point where some adult grant applicants were turned away because the program assumed there was an educational component and there wasn't, and it was even though we tried our best to kind of get those folks back into the queue, I think we lost a few of them who were turned away and they shouldn't have been. So this time, if we could just see what the criteria is up front, I think that'll be helpful. Do you think that'll be on the application though? I would assume it would.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Should all be there.
Ms. Fisher-Hall.
Yeah. Could you get us the policy and guidelines for the sports team applications?
I can.
Please, because I've had several turned away and we're wondering why. Talk to me about Cherokee. What did you find out on it?
Okay. The original, when that was it was a competitive grant, and the original proposal said that we would build the homes at Redbird, and we were given points based on that information. There was talk, because it did hold so much water and it was so hard to get in there, of moving that to Fairfield, but we couldn't change it in the grant because we would have lost points and they would have pulled it. So that's why it was done at Redbird instead of Fairfield.
Okay, but when we talked about it, you all was going to do them at Fairfield and at Redbird, and they was both going to be houses that we built. That's what I'm wanting to know. When did Fairfield change from houses we didn't build? Because we had that meeting out at Fairfield.
Okay, and I do know at one time they were talking about using the 09 IHP to do all those homes at Fairfield, but I don't know why that was changed or even really if it was completely changed. We haven't.
That's what I wanted to know last month.
Yes.
Why
Okay.
it's changed.
We'll work on. I'll look at that.
And could you get us a final cost estimate on the ones at Redbird?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Canoe, I think that Ms. Watts had an excellent idea. Could you keep each of the, on a monthly basis, each of our district representatives apprised about who has applied through Cherokee First? So if somebody is denied, we can try to help them, maybe get them back in.
You want individuals, or you just want the number of people?
I think she said individuals. I believe she said individually let us know who they are.
Okay.
And I think that's an excellent idea, because maybe then we can help them if there's something wrong with their paperwork.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Roads and Transportation, Michael Lynn.
Good afternoon. Again, like the others, I believe you have a copy of our report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. But I guess before I go into any questions, I would like to say that the Barber Road project, I reported on that last month. We did cancel the bid advertisement on that project. We do have it currently back out to bid, being advertised for bid, and we'll hold a pre-bid meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 on the 13th at our office, and then the bid opening is scheduled for the 20th of September at 9:30 as well in our office. So I want to make that known.
That was Marble City,
No, ma'am. Barber Road.
Barber Road. You're gonna do a rebid?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's September 20th?
Is the bid opening? Yes, ma'am.
When's the mandatory pre-bid?
Tomorrow morning, 9:30.
And you've notified all of the interested
Yes.
parties
Yes.
that we know of?
Yes.
Now I believe you were next.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering about Nycut North and Nycut South. I thought one of them was mentioned and the company was in liquidation. My family goes over there all the time and they say, no progress, nothing's being done. Can you give us an update on what the status is there?
The Nycut North project is the one that you're referring to that is in liquidated damages. That was set to be wrapped up by July 22nd. That's still to this day not completed. The striping was completed partially, 90 to 95% complete here about 2 weeks ago. I did get a report just before I came over here that the striping was being completed today, and they are installing guardrail, or have been installing guardrail this week. I don't believe that the guardrail will be completed by the end of the week. Don't have an exact completion date on that, but the contractor will still be held to liquidated damages until the project's made safe for the traveling public, which generally is just asphalt, signing, striping, and guardrail. So.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, yes, Curtis.
What Oaks project, are you bidding it out soon?
Yes, we are in the final stages of the plan review right now. Plans are 99.9% complete. We're going through and giving them one final check. There's some driveways that we are having to make some revisions to. Specifically, it's driveways with ornate or decorative entrances that are going to be affected by the construction. We're going in and having to modify the plans to accommodate those types of entrances so that we can either set them back, rebuild them. We're working with the landowners. So there's about 2 or 3 landowners that we're working with specifically on those entrances. But as soon as those issues are worked out, the utilities have all been relocated and all the right-of-ways been secured, except for if we have to go back and secure any more right-of-way because of these entrances. We're right here.
Okay.
Any other questions? And I guess that would also cover number 4, the public comments on the road issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Next is Housing Services, Mr. Sutherland.
Afternoon. Got a couple of disclosures to make. Home rehab, Stanley Ross, who's a cousin to one of my employees that works at rehab, Gary Armour. And then Geneva Inman, who's sister to our treasurer, Callie Kitcher. Some emergency assistance to Jerry Leslie Jr., who's the second cousin to Councilwoman Fulbright, according to Miss Leslie. And those are the disclosures for the month. All those people down there from Sequoia County about halfway kin to each other, somewhere or another.
That's right.
Next Housing Authority Board meeting is a week from tomorrow, the 20th, at noon, over at the Housing Authority. That's all I have. I didn't really have anything else to report, but if anyone has any questions.
Okay, Mr. Baker and then Mr. Hoskins.
Yeah, Dave, we've had, I don't know, 2 or 3 conversations on different properties that we were hoping you could take the dollars that we set aside for foreclosures and maybe purchase those properties but what we're finding in this economy, there's a lot of folks that whether it's medical emergencies or what it is, where right now I think the board thinks that you can buy those houses rehab them, and get them ready for somebody else. Is that?
Exactly.
It is the deal. Folks, we've got a lot of Cherokees out there that, and like I say, because of a medical emergency and this, that, and the other, they're losing their houses, and some of them elders, and you know, if they go in and try to reborrow the money, the bank wants everything plus attorney fees plus everything in the world. There are a couple of these that I've run across that the housing authority could buy at a substantial discount and not have to rehab them, and set these folks up on like a rent-to-own type situation where they don't have to just lose it and leave. And some of them would be good investments or good buys for the housing authority, but anyway, I would hope that this body might give the nod to your board. I realize it's their decision, that wouldn't be a bad use of the money to, especially if it's a disabled or a handicapped or an elder or somebody that has been in a house for 30 years and they're getting ready to lose it, and we'd still own it until they make good on it. But I don't know that it's an act or even a resolution, but maybe a vote of confidence to do something like that from this body to their body. Would that be in order for you?
Yeah, any type of a thumbs up that the council would really like for the Housing Authority Board to consider that. Just to follow up on it, I have had discussions with Anna, and she might have something to add.
She did get a grant for something kind of like that too.
But we've had these discussions for some time, and there hasn't been any money that's been designated for that. I don't know what kind of volume we're talking about. It could be pretty high, but I think even in our discussions that we might have had last week or the week before, whenever it was, asking the board, get some discussion with them going, because our resolution specifically says, you know, we'll buy it, we'll rehab it, we'll find somebody to buy it from us, or put it on one of our programs eventually. Doesn't really take into account those folks that are already in there that are having trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. So.
But anyway, I'd put in the form of a motion to at least give their board a thumbs up that would be a good use of the funds to keep these elders in their homes, and like I say, we would still own them and just do them a rent to own to see if they could get back on track. Otherwise, we remodel it later for the next family.
Second.
Is that a resolution?
Point of information.
No, it's not even a resolution. It's just a.
Can we clarify what the actual motion is?
Well,
there was a lot of vague terminology in the motion, so.
Would you state your
Pretty much
motion?
what it is to tell David or ask David to go back to his board and say that this body would be interested in them changing the resolution to broaden it out so that you could use the funds for the highest and best use that you possibly could. And if that meant leaving an elder in their home and renting it to own until they could get back on their feet, then that would be a good deal. And that's what I'm asking, is that we just send the
Madam
word to
Chair.
them.
And let me first make sure, was there a second?
Yes.
Okay, now discussion, Ms. Karen.
I'm still on what the motion is. So is this, where we help with mortgage assistance? Is this mutual help? Is this where it's any elder in the jurisdiction? Is it all over the world we're gonna help? I mean, is this the IHP we're modifying, or is this?
No. This is Housing Authority funds that we're talking about. I've already got a resolution that says that we can buy foreclosed properties, but the intent is to buy them, rehab them, and sell them to someone other than the person that's caused the foreclosure. And what Mr. Baker is suggesting is we try to work with the elders. We have had a couple of situations where it's been elderly who's went through this, to where we can buy it, leave them in it, and work out some type of payment arrangement with them within the jurisdiction.
Madam Chair?
Yes, continue.
Is there something that would prevent us from doing that for anyone that's within reason that's under foreclosure, not just elders?
That's all that Councilman Baker has said in his motion long ago. There wouldn't be anything.
I would
That would keep
offer
us
a
from
friendly
it.
amendment that would also at least at minimum include anyone in the mortgage assistance program. So we've already committed existing funds that we would assist them somehow if there was a way. But I'd like an actual proposal to come back with details on how we could do that. If it's too far out of the existing scope.
Clarification.
It may not be as easy as it seems by just throwing out a motion.
Yeah, and by point of clarification, their board is the one that's gonna do this. It's not us, and that's why I didn't bring anything formal. It's just to give them what they think is leeway. We send them money to buy repos, and probably more specifically repos from the mortgage assistance, where we had a dog in the hunt. But it just giving them the feeling that we would be good if they expanded it a bit, tweaked it to where they wouldn't necessarily have to take it, buy it, and kick them out and put somebody else in it. Because I mean, these are Cherokee families, obviously, and like I say, this one particular case is elder. Another one, lady had 8 kids, and husband dying, and I mean, it's a bad deal. But we might have got that fixed another way. Okay.
Now, she offered a friendly
And I
amendment to their
accept it.
motion.
Yes.
And so, Mr. Baker accepted it. Did the second accept? Mr. Hoskins?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So now the motion would broaden their ability, or we would request that their ability be broadened on buying foreclosed properties to include working out buying some of the elders' property or some of the mortgage assistance property if they've gotten themselves in a bind, and then your organization would work out with them a repayment plan, leaving them in the same home. Is that in essence what we're voting on? And I believe we're still in discussion, and Mr. Walking-Stick, you're next.
Yeah, I just think the elders should be priority in all this, and then everyone else that's in the mortgage assistance program. And on the rent to own, it would be a good business venture, but we're not in it for the business side, are we, Mr.?
No.
No, and so maybe we can offer an incentive of taking off a little bit, maybe the interest on the end, or some type of incentive of them paying their, I guess the incentive is paying their house off and that they get to get their home out of it, but somewhere where the interest is being collected over the time and being put on the person that purchasing the home.
Well,
Or
I think I know what you're talking about. We probably, if it's rent to own,
yeah.
whether or not we charge them a great deal of interest, that's questionable whether or not we do that anyway. But I think I understand what you're saying. Some type of incentive at the end where
Yeah. Yeah.
there have been programs in the past. We haven't had one in a few years. It used to be called Family Self-Sufficiency. And what they do is they'd move into one of our apartments, and they'd move in and they'd be making X amount of dollars. And anytime they got more income, their payment went up. So what we'd do was put that difference in their payment into an escrow account, and then once they got
Yeah.
so much, they could pull it out,
Yeah.
buy a home with it or something.
Oh wow, that's great.
We can work out something like that.
Okay, so you're gonna go back to your board, and you guys are gonna draw up a plan of kind of what we're talking about, and then bring it back to us.
Well, I'll put it in the form of a resolution for our board, and from what I'm hearing you all say, it's going to be pretty broad, and that's what I'd recommend to them, to be pretty broad, and give us enough flexibility where we can actually help some folks.
Sure.
Janelle?
Yes, thank you. And I've got a question kind of in general here. At the Sam Ed Bush edition in Salisal, this lady passed away a couple of years ago, and then her family lost the house. And well, it's been sitting there vacant well over a year. It's the corner of Redwood and Dogwood. I go by it every day. About how long does it take to transition someone else back into that home?
I don't know.
Does it depend on if it needs to be totally rehabbed or just?
Well,
You know, I know people's on the
usually
waiting list.
not that long.
Well, it's
I need
been
to check on it.
a long time.
There was one of them over there that paid off. And I don't know if that might be it or not. But,
This one wasn't paid off. I mean,
I'll
they
find
called
out.
me and they just decided the payment was just too big. They just let it go back. And she'd made the payments all these years, you know, but it was her family living with her, and then it's just sitting there. It's a prime location, and I used to go visit them, and it was pretty well kept on the inside and
is it the one
everything.
right there on the corner?
Uh-huh.
I'll find out.
And then we're having to pay to keep the yard mowed and everything.
Well, yeah.
So I just wondered about it. Thank you.
Okay, are there other questions on Mr. Baker's motion? Kara, did you have another question?
I think technically we should have amended the agenda to even consider this, but
I can step in.
Yes.
Preferably, this is a statement of the will by the council, which would have been, more formally brought with a resolution. But what I hear, the consensus of the council is that Mr. Baker wanted to give a recommendation to the board, the Housing Authority Board, to develop their policy and develop their resolution to include these types of circumstances. This is no more than, again, a recommendation. It's not a formal action of the council. If the Housing Authority Board later wants a more memorialized product, I would recommend bringing a resolution and doing that. I think right now, though, it is proper to go ahead and pass this, act on the motion as a recommendation, which is nothing more than a suggestion to the Housing Authority Board to consider this policy change. And it's really up to the Housing Board to effectuate that policy change. So I think it's proper at this point.
Okay, with that recommendation then, if there's no other comments, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Baker's motion to make this recommendation to the Housing Authority can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I believe the ayes have it at that point. Okay, so you have your direction and
Yes.
can visit with your board.
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Cherokee Watts.
thank you, Madam Chair. I'm concerned about the budget cuts coming down. So I think there's some language in the proposal that might impact our 2010 monies because the level we have or have not spent. Is that true?
I think I can speak to that. It's excuse me. The House, I believe it was the House last week, passed their side of the transportation bill, which includes the HUD funding, and they did have proposed any tribe that had over $10 million worth of funds on hand other than 2011 funds. We haven't started spending our 2011 funds, so it would take into account everything that we've got on hand right now. What come out of it was $20 million, which doesn't impact us as much. Now, I talked to the Chickasaws on Friday. That $10 million not only would affect us, he said it wouldn't affect him this year, but it would next year if they continue with that type of language. 20 million we're okay, but if it was to end up at 10 million in the final version, that impacts us. The DC office is aware of that. The administration's aware of that. We're opposed to that language being in there at all. But 20 million we're okay. 10 million not so much.
Do we have, may I continue?
Yes.
Do we have a plan for addressing it either way? I mean, are we able to spend down that quickly, or is there?
Well, we're right at the threshold of the 20 million. To spend 20 just to get to 10, I don't know that we could get there. But since they raised it to 20, I don't think what you're suggesting that we could do. Spend from 20 to 10 if we had to within now a few months. Just really depends on timing, I guess. Generally how this works is the budget usually don't get passed till, you know, sometime next year anyway. And then we don't get our funding till later in the year. If that's the timing of the deal, then we probably could meet the $10 million threshold.
May I guess, I mean, clearly federal spending directions change.
Mhm.
So, I would say internally, we always struggle with, you know, we obviously are tied to the federal budget issues, and then trying to deliver services based on federal budget timing once it's given to us, and there's always this balancing act, how we get our services out to the people. So if we anticipate that this is clearly the direction that the feds are going, are we retooling
Okay,
our spending
I got you now.
patterns so that we can meet the expectation and not put these things at risk?
I think our initial view was the first 2012 money, when it first starts. We're okay there, but we will have to adjust for next year if it's the same thing. If it's so much on hand, except for the 2012, a year from now. Yes, we will have to adjust our funding. We will have to start spending at a higher rate.
So should we anticipate that this Indian housing plan would come in front of us sooner than maybe would
It'll
regularly?
have to, absolutely.
So when would this, because that's going to take a considerable amount of time, and when should we anticipate seeing it this committee? Maybe you don't know
I'll
that,
have
but
to
you
get
can-
back with you, and that's probably, I got a meeting with Marvin tomorrow. Marvin's, I think his last day is tomorrow. And you know, the way that
Celebrating.
with the 2012 IHP, it all combines into one. Well, that thing, I just looked at it a little bit ago, because I'm concerned about exactly what you're asking. And there's like $60 million that's identified in there. And we have to start spending differently in order to, we have to spend more each month. It's the bottom line. Because it's almost like we get 2 years funding this next year. But no, we don't have a detailed plan yet.
Would it be, I would really appreciate an agenda item or something that we talk just about this next month.
Okay, the housing plan.
But not necessarily the housing plan. What is the plan in order to meet new federal spending expectations?
We'll put that down.
Which may or may not be the IHP reviewed. I don't sound like they won't be ready by that time for actual IHP review.
Well, the 2012 IHP is already, you've already approved it. It's at HUD, and it includes the 2011 and the 2012 funding along with any projected carryover.
Because in 2010 we have $13.5 million in that budget.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right.
Can you come to us next month with some
What's
formulation of an outline at least of where we're headed so that we can
Where we're
start
at and where we're headed. Yes,
Now,
yes ma'am, I can.
I need some comfort level.
What I think I'm hearing is you want a spending calendar for Nahasta funding.
Especially with, well, I think so, but it has to take into account this $20 million thing that they just put on there, which is new. And hopefully it'll stay at 20 and not 10.
Let me rephrase it, I guess, a different way so the expectations are met. I need to know next month that you, your staff, and the Housing Authority are ready to meet those expectations at minimum the 20 million, and possibly even what would we do if it was a 10 million cap? Because I understand the language is all or nothing if we don't meet those minimum spend levels.
There wasn't a whole lot of info with it.
And actually, it won't just be a discussion with Mr. Sutherland. Nahasta funding is spread throughout the tribe. Have you identified someone that's going to step into Marvin's shoes? I think it's going to be you, isn't it?
At least short term. At least short term it'll be me.
Well, then that report will come from you, and what we'll do is put it in here as number 6, and then move Anna to number 7 on the report list. And we'll do that for the next couple of months until we're satisfied that there is a spending schedule
Yeah.
that will adhere to the new law.
And, you know, I assume that, yes, and I assume that would also include that there would be a formal IHP review and amendment brought forward to, or amendment.
They'll have to be. They'll have to be.
And I think it's important, as the chairwoman identified, that all those other groups that spend NAHASDA money, I want to know that there's a, given where we're at in the interim, that there's a clear communication to all those group leaders about their responsibility to spend those down as well.
And to spend them in a way that brings quality to our objectives.
One of the other
I always
things.
assume that's happening. You want, you would hope.
One of the other things that was in that language that's new is you have 3 years to use it. If you don't have it spent in 3 years, it comes back. And really where this comes from and what drives this is Navajos, who reportedly have $450 million sitting in the bank.
Maybe they could loan us some money.
They might.
Possibly we may need a loan.
With enough interest, I'm sure.
Okay, I believe Mr. Dickley was next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David, these are all good questions, and I don't know that you're going to be able to give us all those answers until you hear from DC, probably. Would that be correct?
Well, that's going to be a big thing.
Yes, sir. How many people are paid through these funds in the nation?
Mr. Jones indicated in some info he put together about 275. I have about 170 or so, and about half of those are paid with 2 different, something besides NAHASDA. But, you know, there's a large number of employees that's paid NAHASDA.
What do you usually, I guess, from what you said last time you were here, we receive these funds in arrears, or that's how you are drawing
Yes.
it down?
Yes.
Is that standard? All tribes do that?
From what I understand, that's pretty much we have to, just because we don't get the funding, like the 2011, until, we would probably got 2011 funding about May or June. So we would have been spending something from January 1st through there, and then we wouldn't have started spending until 2011 until then. We used to do that. We used to spend from mid-year to mid-year, and it was such a confusing thing for staff, coding invoices and using the AUs. It was just a nightmare. And a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we were able to postpone starting to use it until the following fiscal year.
What's the amount that you have on hand now?
The amount of
NAHASDA funds?
on hand?
Yes, sir.
Total, we got right around $20 million. On hand, I don't know the answer to that. I know the total we have in the neighborhood of 20 million. But how much of that is on hand and how much of it's still in the pipeline, I don't know that.
So to me, if this guideline goes to 10 million, you've got to ramp up disbursement or spending somehow really quick.
Really quick. But right now we're sitting at 20. The language that come out was 20. So we're okay there.
You're okay now.
Yeah.
And if we don't get 2011, whatever, period.
Well, we live off of what we've got unspent from 2010. And 2009, we got some prior to that, but it's not a great deal of money. But basically, 2010 is what we're living on right now.
If we project for the worst, these 275 people?
Well, we're looking at using the funding we have, along with any reserve amounts that we might have available to us, including Housing Authority funds, to get by until some type of decision's made, if we get an adverse decision right here soon. That's kind of our plan.
Thank you.
Mr. Watkins, Step.
David, how much carryover you say we have in our HUD for housing?
I don't have those figures right in front of me.
Just estimate.
Goodness gracious. I don't know. I've got a breakdown. I can email you all, but I don't have that right here in front of me. I don't know.
But would you say it's over
Well,
$1 million?
Well, we're still spending the 2010. That's our main source of income right now. It's all my department except for what I have on rents. Total, we got right around 20 million, and most of that is the 2010.
That's 2010.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got some carryover from these other grant years, but I don't have those numbers right in front of me.
Would you say it's over 100 million?
Oh no. We have 20 million.
We have 20 million.
Counting the 2010.
Okay.
So out of all our money, what I was talking about a while ago was on October 1st, the way we report in these Indian housing plans changes. So we put everything together, and it's everything you anticipate having access to in 2012, and that's our carryover, which will include the 2010. It's 2011 funds.
Okay.
Which is the ones that are being, we tried to draw down and haven't been able to yet. And then 2012 funds is what HUD's fixing to approve. So technically they're available next fiscal year. We don't anticipate using them, but we may now, since we got this language.
So it's not use it or lose it right now. Right
No.
now it's carryover.
Right now it's carryover.
Okay. And the guidelines for spending the money, is there a percentage on personnel and personnel costs on the grant? No?
On the grant, there's a 20%, you can use 20% for admin cost.
Admin?
We don't approach that. We're more like 12 or 13%. We have, the only requirements in spending, used to have one where you had to have 90% obligated within 24 months, but that went away a couple of years ago. So this 3-year thing, you have to spend it or lose it in 3 years. If that gets passed, I think that's a good thing.
Sure, yeah.
But, right now, there's not.
Well, we definitely need to get a strategic plan and, spend money wisely, to, like I said, Counselor Lori said, to meet the need to feet and stuff. Yeah, that's something to look into, because if we get a cut in our grant, and we don't want to cut our personnel, so we need to know what percent that grant is going to cover for personnel costs, just in case we do get a lower amount of money.
Right. I'll have that as part of my report next month.
Okay.
I need to know that. The only good news, or some good news, is that they didn't. The grant stayed about the same with what was passed the other day through the House. Of course, the Senate's still got to do something with their side. So, and usually the Senate's a little more kind to us than the House. So, might be all right.
Just a comment before we go to the next person. I did have Mr. Evans check through our accounting sources, and there's between $9 and $10 million that is projected to be left at the end of the fiscal year in HUD funding that we have. And about a little less than $500,000 of it is usable in its current form for paying employees. So we will have to reallocate through, I guess, the housing plan or through our budget if we're going to try to use those funds to keep people afloat until we see what happens on.
And it's September the 12th, end of the fiscal year. We've done blowed half the month.
Well,
so
that
we really
$500,000 may go away before in that 18 days, but there will, gathering all the pots up of what's left of NAHASA funding, that was what he could find.
Yeah.
Mr. Hoskins.
No, thank you. I think this will be a little easier question to answer.
All right.
This is the home up in South Coffeyville that has been unoccupied for a period of time. Are we having any luck?
Yeah, we're on about the 4th family, but there's the last one. I don't remember who that was, but they didn't work out. So one of the problems with that, it's a 4-bedroom, and it takes a little more to get a 4-bedroom, and we've had so much trouble. I said, no, it's a 3-bedroom with a study now. So
I like that.
we'll get it.
Is this gonna be another process where you open back up the applications, or do you have a big enough
No,
tool?
we have people.
And then I had a report, I hadn't seen it myself, and it has been probably an old report by now, that the grass was looking kinda high.
Could be that rain we got, what little we got, it's really greened her right up, just like it did my house. I got weeds.
Do you
I'll get
guys
'em on it.
do that, or does
Yeah.
another department take
No.
care of that?
My guys.
Okay, all right, you might have them check next time. Appreciate it, thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Sutherland? Okay, you're off the hot seat. And our next one will be Anna Knight. And this will be the Commerce Report.
You have a copy of my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Her report starts on page 15, and Mr. Baker, you're up.
This new grant that you got for foreclosure mitigation or whatever, can you explain it to us just a little bit?
It is part of the Cdfi Grant, which is the Community Development Financial Institution, where we receive $725,000 for loan funds. And so a portion of that we had written into the grant that we would use for foreclosure prevention loans to try to help a family that had a situation that's now been resolved, so they can make their mortgage payment and we can help them get caught up so they can get out of a foreclosure or delinquent situation.
And how much of that percentage,
In the grant we wrote about, I believe it was $150,000 for foreclosure prevention.
Good idea.
And if it's successful, we'll try to ask for more in the future.
Probably in this economy, I think it's a great idea.
Other questions? Mr.
When
Walkenstein.
will we have access to this? To the foreclosure side, $150,000.
We should have the money in by December, but until then we have tribal credit funds, which is part of our consumer loan program that we can use for the same purpose, though. We can work with them now.
Okay, all right.
Anna, this is not to buy the house for them. It is simply to help them get their payments caught up.
Right.
And it would be a loan from us, probably a soft second after the mortgage.
Right, yes.
Are there other questions? Mr. Walkenstein.
Are there any credit background checks or anything? I mean, say someone's got bad credit or going through foreclosure, does that deny them our assistance to help them?
We do look at people's credit since we are making them loans. We're more of a high-risk lender than what banks and other financial institutions are, so we don't put as much weight into it. The biggest indicator is whether or not they've got the money to make the payment. So we do look at their credit, but we're more lenient.
Other questions? Thank you. I see no old business or any new business pending, and it looks like our first announcement is we have a meeting scheduled for October 10th at 3 o'clock, and that's after we return from Bull Hollow that morning. And I believe, Shelley, you've got an announcement to make.
I have draft calendars for October, November, and December. October shows the Bull Hollow Fish Fry, and then the meeting's all that afternoon. In November, we had a request from the Head Start to do our Thanksgiving dinner, so they'll do that at noon, and we'll have all of our committees that day at Head Start, and then have council meeting that night. Then Tuesday, the day after, we'll do rules and E&F, because the last Thursday of the month is Thanksgiving. And then December, we'll do the Monday, Tuesday, with the Tuesday being the rules and E&F, and then our council open house following. Those are still in draft form. I can go ahead and send out the reminders now if you would like. Just realize that they may be subject to change. I don't think they will, but they can. And I can go ahead and send out the calendars now, and then you'll have 3 months ahead. It's just holidays are always change the calendars and gives you a little bit of a heads up.
And for the new members, the Thanksgiving dinner is delicious up at the Head Start program. You don't wanna miss it. Okay, are there any other announcements? Yes, Mr. Garvin?
I noticed Mr. Todd looking out the window at all that smoke coming in, but I might explain about that. Cap Gruber's having a controlled burn and kinda got away from them, and they claim they're exempt from the fire ban, but the smoke just keeps coming in, settling in the hollow, so, firemen and the county commissioners really having a problem, so if anybody asked about that smoke moving in, well, that's coming from Cap Gruber.
Thank you, Mr. Garvin. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you next month. Mr. New, I need to visit with you.